Hey, so we're back. Obviously, Collision was the other night, the 1 hour Fairway to Hell, which was great. Obviously, we did our video on that. But they announced something big on the show. That was the Super Owen Hart. No, the Owen Hart Cup tournament will be revealed. The roster will be revealed on that this coming Wednesday. So, I just thought, like the Continental Classic, this is one of the biggest times of the year for AEW. Obviously, the winner of the Owen gets the All In main event for the belt. So, men and women, we're just going to predict the roster and just explain the picks. So just a bit of an explanation before we do that. Obviously, normally the Owens 4 basic matches, and then there's not going to be it's not going to be like, oh, who's going to face who. I don't really care. I'll put who I predict to win, but I also will make a note of, this, currently now our champions are Darby Allin for the men and Tekla for the women. Now, this obviously depends on who we're going to do, what we're going to do. So I don't really want to predict a winner yet. I just want to predict, I'll probably say who I think will win. I don't know, I'll probably predict someone, but the point is, it's all up in the air. We don't know. Obviously, it looks like we're gearing up for Max versus Darby or Double or Nothing at least. And then we've also got Tekla going on the 4-way, which is Shida, Stat, and Hater. So there's definitely a lot of possibilities. But either way, let's just get into it, because that's all people give a shit about here. Oh, I'm going to start with the women's Owen roster, I think. So I'm just going to name them, then explain the picks. So I'm going to do this very much. This depends if Tekla retains too. This is very important. So I'm going to put Chris Statlander in there. I'm going to put Jamie Hayter in there. I'm going to put Karu Shida in there. So all three women from the 4-way are going to be in the Owen for me. If Tekla loses to one of these three, I think you've got to replace one of them. But either way, I'm going to put Mina Shirakawa in there. I'm going to put Marina Shafir in there. Now, I've got three more. I'm going to put... I have written these down. I'm just trying to remember them, to be perfectly honest. I want to put Athena in there. I think Athena is a must. I think you've got to have Athena in there. And then the two... I'm just going to set this precedent now, just to get out the way. I want the Owen to feel big. I want Persephone in there. And I would love someone from Stardom to be in there. I don't know if you do Kamatani. I don't know if you do Shuri. I don't know who you do. But you could even do Bozilla to run back to Forbidden Door vibes. But I just want the Owen to feel big. That's my big point this year. And I feel like the Owen should be as big as the Continental Classic, if not debatably bigger. It's for the AEW World Championship. Why not get these other companies involved where you've got some good relationships? It makes sense, even just for a match. And you don't know if this is going to go to Forbidden Door, you know what I mean? You don't know how long the Owen's going to be reflected. Probably won't. But, just for straight up, consistency, I would love the Owens to represent other companies, even just for one match. I feel like it's done that now and again, but I feel like, I'll talk about in the men's too, but this one, I feel like Persephone makes sense anyway, because Persephone's great, but also you could just get her in there, and, Persephone can just go, and it'll be interesting to see her in these situations. And obviously she's got the dual contract with AEW, but obviously, someone from Stardom I'd just kill for. Again, I don't know who you do. You could possibly do Kairi Sane, or even Oscar at this fucking point. Holy fuck. But off topic, I don't care. You could do anyone. But I would like someone from another company as well to be represented that isn't Persephone too. The reason for Stat, Shida, and Jamie obviously makes the most sense in the world. They're already challenging for the world belt. It was very hard for me not to put Alex Windsor here. You could have had Alex Windsor for the New Japan rep too, because of the New Japan Strong belt. But I just didn't want to put her in there. I just felt like you don't want to have two of the Brawling Birds unless that's going to be the final, which could make sense. I think Athena is a must. I think Athena has to be represented more on AEW's roster anyway. I think it's beyond ridiculous that she isn't. Mina Shirakawa just being in that position, I feel like she's just reliable, and honestly, she deserves that moment. Same with Marina Shafir. And I feel like the one for me I was debating to put in, again, was Megan Bayne. I feel like Megan Bayne held a strong case because, the stature, but she's so tied up in the women's tag that it kind of defeats that pair. But she could have her in for one match, but it's not like the C2. You know what I mean? It's a very different type of tournament. But I feel like, for me, the women, it's a lot harder to debate because, for me, I don't give a fuck. I'd keep Tekla with that belt forever. I don't give a shit. No, but genuinely, you've obviously got the Evolution threat of, does Tekla drop it before the Owen finishes? Same with Darby, obviously, but does Tekla do it? It feels a bit more likely. Well, I don't know, actually, probably as likely as each other. But then also you've got the ever-looming threat of when is Mercedes coming back? And Mercedes was a hard one to leave out. I just felt like I don't think Mercedes will retain in the Owen. It makes sense that she does, but I just don't think she will. I feel like she'll retain at All In. I feel like that makes more sense for her. Obviously, you got Tony. You've got Tony. Tony's always ever present. But obviously, she's out at the minute, so there you go. I just feel like there's a ton of possibilities how to go down with the women. And I feel like you could have some shocks in there too. You know, like, you could even have someone like a Sky Blue. Could even have some, someone like that. Bro, if it's up to me, I'd get Yuka in there too. I fucking love Yuka. People like this. It's like, I just feel like it's a very hard one to call, because the 8 roster for the women. This is the problem with the women's division too. I don't want to make this too much of a tangent, but the women's division's so stretch thin that you've got the tag division going on, really harming the women's division, in my opinion. That's why, again, the need of Athena is very, very strong. Same with Billy Starks. You could even have Billy Starks on here, but like, you really need to amplify that the singles division is still thriving, and not just the TBS, because you still got Willow there too, and Willow's going to be held up with the TBS, hopefully. So there's a lot you could do. I just don't know how this goes. I feel like the women's was so much harder to pick than the men's. I don't want to pick a winner, because I feel like the winners I pick would just be, I don't want to talk about it yet, but point is, I'll talk about them later if I want to pick a winner. But either way, I think this roster makes sense. I don't know who else I could put in. Mercedes is the obvious call, but besides Mercedes, I mean, Alex Windsor or Megan Bayne maybe, but that's it. And then Tekla if Tekla hasn't got the belt, she should be in it, because she is brilliant. But yeah, that's my women's roster there, straight up. So, we're going to talk about the men's roster now for the Owen tournament, which is a lot more exciting, because the men's roster, frankly, is a lot more widespread. There's a lot more going on, and there's a lot more bodies you could really pick from. So I'm going to talk about, obviously, I want to reiterate the point. I want the Owen to feel bigger. I do. I feel like they should just expand the entries of the top part of the tournament anyway. But hey ho. So I'm going to put Swerve. The obvious call, I've got to have Ospreay in there. Andrade, Bandido. I'm gonna put... I'm forgetting the people, to be honest. I'm gonna put Samoa Joe in there, and I'll explain why I'm gonna put Samoa Joe in there. The obvious one, I'm gonna put Jay White in there, even though I'm probably gonna get banned by this shit again. I just need my Switchblade back, to be honest. And then the other two, again, like, I want to make it feel so much bigger. I'm gonna put Mystico in there. Mystico makes all the sense in the world. I had to bite my fucking tongue, but religiously not to put Dorada in there. You don't understand, but Mystico, we'll talk about why. But then also, I did put a New Japan rep, and I didn't specifically say who, because I feel like it's so much harder to pick a New Japan rep. You got, again, you got the likes of Goto, you got the likes of Sabre Jr., again, it's Yota Tsuji, even Newman, any of these people. And again, there's only so many that feel right. And it's not like you've got all these people who have these incredible links to AEW nowadays, because you don't. Like, again, Naito's not there no more. Naito would have been a great pick. Tana's obviously retired. I'm like, that. I feel like, in my head, it's between Sabre Jr. and Goto, just for a match. I don't give a shit. Goto, because he's just based as hell. And Sabre Jr., because obviously it's an All In London, he'd have a bit more motivation. But obviously, we've got a bit more experience with Sabre Jr. Either way, that's the men's one. Now, I feel like this one owes a bit more explanation. So, Mystico alone, I need that. I need that because, frankly, he's the... Bro, he had BTS fucking belting out the song the other day. Like, probably biggest wrestler in the fucking world now. You gotta just put him in there. And plus, also, the CMLL guy in the Owen. Oh my god, huge fucking deal. Jay White, just because they always do a surprise entrance. Last year it was Josh Alexander, my beloved, R.I.P. But the Jay White one, just you have to put him in because I just don't want to be banned again. I'm scared to get hurt. But I would like Jay White in there. Obviously, this is very much considering if Darby. I don't want to put Darby or Max in there because it doesn't really matter. Because either one I don't think would be in there. You've also got, so Samoa Joe was a big one. I think you got to have Joe in there because of two things. One, Joe's very much teasing a thing with Ospreay, with the ops and stuff. And two, Joe hasn't had a match since losing the belt. and he has got every right to demand himself in there. A lot of these people have got to earn the ways in there. That's why I felt it was important and a bit harder to pick, especially with the women's side. You know, you got to be at least that you could, you know, as much as I'd want someone fucking, as much as I want Shibata in this, you know what I mean? I don't give a Shibata at all. I can't, you know what I mean? You got to earn it. I feel like even then, if it's, so Joe made sense because he could demand the title shot, it makes sense, and also the Ospreay stuff, it kind of works into it, and it's fucking Samoa Joe. Swerve, I feel like makes the most sense too. I think Swerve's a big player in this. You could obviously build Swerve up big time. The matchups you give Swerve, and also Swerve just constant main eventer. Kenny not being in there was hard, but I feel like there's a bit more of a plan for Kenny. Frankly, I think Kenny could even have the belt at this point. Ospreay makes the most sense in the fucking world. I mean, that's the easy banker. That's the number one. You got to have him in there. It's the no-brainer in the world. Bandido, again, I feel like Bandido should ever present be in the main event scene. I think that Bandido should be always there now, and he's ROH champ. There's your justification if you needed any for fucking Bandido. And again, Andrade, the exact same, being on a fucking tear, being in the main event scene. You gotta have El Idolo in there. The ones that could have been for me, Okada, Takeshita, they were two. There was a debate in my brain to put Hangman in there. There was a small debate, but again, with the stip, and yes, the stipulation of him not challenging for the belt again is kind of okay, it's not fully, you know, formal. Tony confirmed that, but I don't think they'd throw that away straight away. Same with Kenny. I feel like Kenny's got other plans. I feel like we're going to do something a bit more title adjacent with Kenny. I think he might have the belt, like I say. Who else was I thinking just off the top of my head? Honestly, there's a fucking lot. There is a lot, and like a lot of, honestly, I was thinking Ciampa. You could have easily had Ciampa in this shit. You know what I mean? Even someone like a Cassidy, you know, people like that. And I'm not, there's a lot of people you could have done. There's a lot, and I just feel like these are the ones that made sense. And you don't want to overbook it, because you don't, like, you could even have a Ricochet. You know what I mean? People like this, where you're like, okay, are they going to go in this? You know, where are they just going to set their title picture up? I look at it where Joe, again, has got the justification. Swerve's got to, in my opinion, Swerve should be in there regardless, because it's fucking Swerve. And also, you know, the matchups all there for Swerve are just incredible. Andrade's been in the main event. Bandido's Ring of Honor champ and should be in the main event anyway. Ospreay speaks for fucking self. Mystico's fucking CMLL god. The New Japan rep's the hard one. That is the harder one, because I feel like you could definitely, you know, am I just being a bit picky? Yes. But, like, just give me Goto. I don't give a fuck. I just want Goto or Sabre Jr. I just fuck with those heavy. And there was a debate in my mind, again, with Hangman specifically, but I just don't think they will. But also, I do think, like, you know, you could even have someone like an Eddie Kingston. That was a big one. Eddie was a huge one. Because, like, where the hell's he? Frankly, where the fuck's Eddie? But there's a bunch. Moxley, obviously. Moxley's like a do you, don't you? Continental champ. I'm not going to do that. I feel like, again, there's other stuff going on with Moxley. You don't really need to do that. Same with Darby, even if he has the belt or not. Max, the same. You know, that's the thing. There's with the men's, like I said, there's so many other people who are occupied with other stuff that you don't need titles. Then Owen's just for the main event. The obvious call to win the Owen for the men is Ospreay. Do I think it happens? Yeah, I fucking do. Frankly, I do, just to get out the way. I think Ospreay wins. And like I said, when you look at the picks I've made for the men, specifically, Ospreay going up against Swerve, against the Bandido, against an Andrade, even a fucking Mystico, a Goto, or a Sabre Jr. I was debating putting Pac in this shit too, because I'm based as hell like that. But you know what I mean? All the possibilities for Ospreay matches alone are like, wow. You know what I mean? And then Swerve the same. All these possibilities work. Ospreay and Joe as well has already got that tension building. It basically makes that transition seamless. You could do that. I just feel like there's a lot you could do. And I feel like Ospreay's the obvious winner to go into All In, because obviously feels like that's the point. The women, now this is where I'm a bit contentious with the women pick, because I've picked Ospreay for the men, and I think that's a natural cause, but I also want to pick Jamie Hayter for the women. Now, that's fucking bullshit from my brain, but it's the only one I can really think of, because that's just picking the runners-up from last year, and that's kind of boring. But, like, Ospreay makes the most sense. I feel like you've got to do Ospreay. For the women, it's a bit harder. It is, unless you do Mercedes. Mercedes won it last year, so I don't really want to do that again. You know what I mean? I feel like you've also got Statlander, maybe. I feel like that's not the point. She didn't stack up that their match anyway. Mina Shirakawa could be cool. Marina Shafir, I don't think it's right. Persephone, I don't think so. Anyone from Stardom, you know what I mean? There's so... Maybe it's just the roster I've picked, but Jamie Hayter feels like the most natural to me. And again, it's kind of hard because they're both hometown, they're both British, and it's like All In London. Obviously, the ties. But I don't know, the women's one's a lot harder to pick a winner for because it does depend on, again, Mercedes. That's a big one. But I just don't want to put Mercedes in there. I just don't feel like that's right. I feel like it should be the whole thing. Mercedes never wins the big belt. I don't want that to take up the match at all in again. I think you could easily do a women's match with Mercedes that doesn't have a belt. But, hey-ho, I like these picks. Obviously, I fucking made them. But I just think Joe, Swerve, Ospreay, Bandido, Andrade, Mystico, whoever from New Japan. And then from the women, obviously, Athena. I'd have Athena win it, to be honest. Actually, that'd be a good call. Athena, Start, Shida, Mina, Marina, Jamie, Persephone. And then you could have anyone from fucking Stardom. This works. This works for me. I feel like it's not overloaded with superstars. It's like, oh my god, everyone could win. But then, you know, even from the men, women's, whatever, it just makes sense. That feels like a balanced roster. Again, I'm just talking about my ass. This is all in my stupid brain. But either way, I just thought, before the Owen starts, I might as well predict it, because I like shit like this, apparently. But yeah, those are my picks. Ooh. So yeah, they're my picks for the Owen Hart Cup 2026 roster. I'll do a reaction when it's announced, obviously, with Dynamite. But yeah, let me know who you think's going to be in the roster. Give me your full roster below. And also, who do you think's going to win the Owen? Not who's going to win the belt, who's going to win the Owen. That's a very big thing. And let me know what you think of my picks too, because I need the ego stroke. Yes, sirree.